Our today's guest is Alex, a Montreal-based entrepreneur who moved to Canada from Moscow at the age of 19. Armed with nothing but a camera, Alex began his entrepreneurial journey from day one and hasn't looked back. Now he's running one of Canada's top entertainment companies with 9 businesses across 4 cities, including one of Canada's best escape games rooms and a vibrant microbrewery in Montreal. In this episode, Alex will share his journey from newcomer to a business owner.
You either follow your guts or you follow the plan. You're gonna lose time, you're gonna lose energy, you're gonna lose sleep and money.
Reveal how Canada supports business owners.
I was guilty. I didn't file it on time. And
Share why Montreal is the best city in Canada.
a lot of snow, and I wasn't impressed.
Alex is a good friend of mine, and I've had the opportunity to see him build everything from the ground up. And nevertheless, I've learned a lot from this conversation. So grab a cup of something delicious and tune in. Tell me a little bit, how did you get around to shooting so many weddings?
My parents bought me a digital camera. I had nothing to do, I have no friends, and I had this digital camera. So I started discovering Montreal. One of the first day I crossed by foot Jacques Cartier Bridge. Freezing, it was terrible experience. I still remember that was a lot of fun. Got my first gig, shooting for a record label, then got another one and another, and it just kept going.
Before coming to Canada, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do in Canada?
I really enjoyed entertainment business. That's the direction what I thought I want to go. You either follow your guts or you follow the plan.
And you followed your guts, and that took you to taking pictures and videos professionally for a little while.
Yeah, that's what I was doing for 3-4 years. I had my small studio, started doing websites, marketing in general, start growing the business, and it was very hard. It was very hard to scale. All the businesses at some point are hard. There is no magic when you do something and you start making tons of money. It was business based on my talent, and it could be good, bad, doesn't matter. But every business that's based on a talent is hard to scale because you need another talent or another talent. And then if you start delegating or scaling, either you compromise the quality or your vision, or you spend a lot of time to controlling this quality. And back in the time, I didn't have this knowledge, understanding how to do it.
And when you just started that, you talked about landing your first gig, $500. How did you land your first gig?
I was in university. My teacher needed a video. It was for the class project. I started filming, and she told me, "Oh, it's a nice job. How about try something for my record label?" I filmed and I told right away, "Hey, I'm gonna do it for free." And she told me, "No, if it's fine, we're gonna pay you."
So where did you get your next 10 clients from?
Network connection. A friend of mine who recommended me for another gig. The same teacher got me to another gig. Then a classmate got me another gig. And word of mouth, that's how it started happening.
So really, the network and the people you know really is critical.
Yeah.
And then the quality of work, I guess, that you do.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, and from what I know, your marketing and photo and video business was pretty successful overall, so you were doing pretty well for yourself.
That was my full-time job for 4 years. That's what paid my bills. That's what let me kickstart my next business. I saw the big trend of escape games happening, and I fall in love. And the first thing I had in my mind, wow, that's so cool, but it's so bad, and I can do better. I played in Vancouver. A friend of mine showed it to me, and we played together. We miserably failed. And right away started thinking, okay, what could be done? What should we do? There was nothing like this in Montreal back then. There were games in Toronto, in Vancouver, and probably in Winnipeg, but nothing in Montreal. 3 weeks later, found a place, presented a business plan to the owner. He offered a better place in the same building, signed the place, and the construction started.
From an idea to reality in what, a month?
Months and a half, definitely, yeah.
Like, what's going on in your head? Like, going from video photo agency, being creative, kind of being self-employed, and now you have this huge space that you've signed a contract for. You're doing something you've never done before. Like, how crazy do you have to be to do that?
Maybe a bit of crazy, but there was not a lot of risk for this. I started calculating, okay, what would be the worst thing that happened? I worked for 4 years, or 3 years, 1 year, doesn't matter, saved some money. I put all this money into this business. I believe it's gonna work. I'm sure it's gonna work. If it's gonna fail, I'm just gonna lose the money I made in the past several years. And I'm gonna make this money again in several years after. So actually what I'm gonna lose only this sometime. I won't go to jail, I won't lose a leg, I won't lose an arm. So the risk is not as big as usually people imagine.
And it was almost like the level of your belief that it's going to work and the level of your excitement was so much larger than the perceived risk even.
Of course, because this also things that you can control. Comparing to, I don't know, something to crypto or to stock market, where you take money, you put it in a stock, and then it's either going to work or not based on your beliefs. Here, I actually had a control. Just work hard, believe what you're doing, and these two factors are already going to help a lot. Work hard to make sure the product, the games are great. Play test, see the problems, do it again. Play test, see the problem, do it again. Don't give up. And by the way, for the first 3 weeks, the product was bad. It was nice decor, but in terms of game flow, in terms of what I'm doing right now, you cannot compare. And you see what you're doing wrong. There should be something good, something better. And you keep doing this.
So when you say it was bad, were people telling you it was bad?
Some people yes, some people no. Escape games is actually creating problems for people to solve them. But the question, how difficult should be a problem? Do you want to make it super hard, super challenging, or do you want to make it entertaining? So finding this balance, that was challenging. Back then, 10 years ago, I didn't know a lot about game design.
So you didn't just choose a new business that you absolutely didn't know much about.
Yeah.
You also chose one of the harder types of businesses because you had to deploy so many different skills. There was construction, there was this kind of game design and problem solving. How did you manage to handle all of it?
You need a good team, or good connection, good network that people can help support you on different levels. You cannot do everything alone. With the photography and videography, I loved creating different environments. And building an escape game is also creating a different environment. So you create a control environment for the game. But it was, of course, was on a very bigger scale.
Was there a time where you thought, no, it's not going to work, I have to stop?
100%. We start construction in October, we opened the place end of December. And mid-November, we find out that there were 2 other companies opening in Montreal.
Doing escape games?
Escape games, same thing. And they're earlier than us. And right away was a panic. Like, wow, we're not the first. The market is saturated already. It's not gonna work. They're there, that's it. Which is now understanding 10 years later. We have right now 60 companies in Quebec that are doing escape games. Some of them doing great job and just amazing job. Some of them doing really, really bad products. We still have our market share. 2 competitors with 3 games each wasn't a big thing. The risk for me was like, okay, yeah, now things got serious. Now we have to work harder. And honestly, that's it. You just need to work harder. Every time I see a smile on people's faces, it helps me to drive forward and keep doing what I'm doing. Of course, there are depressing moments. There are moments when you're like, okay, I want to just give up and shut down everything. But at some point you find what you're enjoying, you find the little aspects in your day-to-day work or in not day-to-day, you find a nice project and it pushes you forward.
How does it feel to be building and running a business in Canada?
It was very surprising how easy it was to start the business. So my first business for the video production, did my first gig, I sent an invoice to a client and got paid. I reported taxes at the end of the year, my income, and done. And then with Escape Game, I decided to go incorporated. From the moment I had my coffee to the moment when all my paperwork were done, it took me probably 3 hours. Very easy, and you can do it online.
Did you have any background in finance, business, or tax?
No,
Do you need to
no.
do that?
And if you want to start your business, I highly recommend to take a small crash course on accounting, on taxes, simply because it just helps you understand better how everything works. Government in Canada wants you to open the business. They want you to start making money. They want you to employ people. Now there are a lot of grants available for small business. In Montreal, we work with PME Montréal, This is the organization that actually helps grants and loans for small businesses that want to start in specific areas or in specific fields to stimulate the small businesses and the economy. And one of the main, let's say, questions they ask you, if you want to start your project, how many people you're going to employ?
So the number one thing Canada really wants to optimize for is creating more jobs.
Government wants you to employ people and you to pay taxes. What government doesn't want to do is to fine you or to shut down your business or make you go bankrupt or create unnecessary obstacles on your way. And I have actually a very good example. Running a brewery, we have some mandatory filing of documents every month. And if you're late, you can get a fine. So I was late for several days. I received a letter from Quebec Revenue Agency telling that I have a $80 fine. But it was written, listen, you've been doing this for a year and a half, no issue, no problems, and the first time we're going to forgive you.
How nice of them.
I was really surprised. And I mean, I was guilty. I didn't file it on time, and I know this, and I was ready to pay the fine. But seeing this, that, hey, listen, we understand, everyone are human.
So the government of Canada generally is very friendly towards small businesses.
Absolutely, yes. I had the situation when I had the audits from federal revenue agencies when they look at my taxes of my company and they look and like, okay, we have some questions. It's not the end of the world.
How many businesses are you running right now?
So I have my main business is an escape game. Right now I have 5 locations around Montreal. I also have an axe throwing business that I've been a big fan and a big promoter of this type of activity for the past 7 years. Microbrewery, Memento, in Montreal, that's been a year and a half. And I'm opening another business in Montreal, which is still a big secret. And I also have a few other activities that focus more on digital. So right now we're 120 people. Some part-time, some full-time employees, management team that take care of everything, and we have people focusing on operations.
How did you grow all of that and bring all of these people? That must be a lot of hiring, a lot of challenging, and dealing with people is just hard.
Honestly, I'm the worst person in hiring. I'm making all the time bad decisions. That's why I have a person who is hiring right now and doing all the human resource part of the business, which is super important, especially after the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Pandemic in Canada created a big shortage of labor. A lot of people who were, let's say, in the restoration industry, because of the shutdown, changed their profiles. And because of this, it's harder to find good employees. It's harder to retain good employees. During pandemic, there were a lot of subsidies, a lot of grants, so everyone who was in need would receive $2,000 per month, which could be quite a big amount if, let's say, you're a family of 5 adults. Before 2 worked, and now suddenly you're 5 receiving the government help. This is one of the reasons that created the shift and created an employment crisis.
So people did not want to work because they could do nothing and still get paid by the government.
Yeah. Of course, it gave to some people opportunity to discover different job types, different industries, or gave them this freedom, which is, I think, great opportunity. But again, some people took it more as granted, and overall the appreciation to work or respect or work ethic and behavior changed a lot.
How did you overcome that during the pandemic?
We just try to give people something else besides money. In escape games, most of our game masters, people for whom it's first job, or they're students, or they're between jobs, so they're not high qualified employees. For these people, of course, it was easier to change the job. You didn't like something, that's it. You want to change your schedule? Okay. We had a person who quit because we needed this person to work on a weekend. And surprise, surprise, our type of industry, we require people to work on weekends. That's what we're doing. Because of this, people were easily changing jobs. There are a few studies, and one of them is what people value the most in this type of job, and it's flexibility in scheduling. It's a relationship with your boss or manager, is responsibility, and if your voice is heard or not. So let's say you have an idea, can you express it? Or you have some complaints, can you express it? And then, salary, of course, also a part.
Yeah, so that's the kind of leadership that you're trying to practice when you're building your company. You're trying to create an environment where all of that is possible.
We're trying, yes, 100%. It's not an easy job. It's quite demanding. It's not what I'm enjoying the most, to be honest. But it's part of the game, part of the business.
Yeah. So with all of these 100 or more than 100 of employees that you have, are most of them Anglophone, Francophone?
All our operation team deal with clients are bilingual.
Fully bilingual.
Fully bilingual.
And
English, French, yes.
And that is a requirement for you to hire?
Quebec is Francophone province, and we want to give the service in French. However, we also have a lot of tourists, and that's why we ask people to maybe not be fully Anglophone, but to be able at least communicate.
So that's the operations team.
Yeah.
What about other parts of the business?
We have quite a lot of people who just came to Canada. We're also trying to give these people chance to work and slowly practice their language skills.
What matters to you the most when you're hiring someone who doesn't necessarily have a great English or French?
Definitely skills, work attitude, work aspect.
I can attest to that. I have seen the people that work for Alex, and his team is probably one of the most diverse teams that I have ever seen.
It's entertainment, it's fun, it's creativity. For us, we have a lot of people who wants to express themselves. Vibrant is the great word that describe our company and the people who work there.
Is there a business that was harder or the hardest to start with?
Momentum, we started the business right at the end of the pandemic. So I signed the lease half a year before all these things officially finished. When we opened, there were still requirements for people to wear masks. A lot of gambling to open something like this during this rough time. And this business consists of two elements. It's a restaurant and a bar, where we invite people, they can sit, drink, we have kitchen, they can eat. We can accommodate 150 people inside. So it's a giant hospitality place. And at the same time, it's a production. Production with distribution channels, with suppliers, with logistics. And having these two businesses at the same time and the same roof, it's a different challenge, which is still a lot of fun. It's great, but it's more complicated, more hard.
Did you have any experience with making beer before you opened this?
No. I actually didn't drink a beer probably half a year before starting the business. However, I've always been a big fan of craft drinks. Cocktails, liqueurs, gins, vodkas, everything. Not as a big consumer, more as a person who actually appreciates the taste. And the beer was also a very big part of my interest. When the opportunity came, for me it was perfect time.
How did you learn all of that?
I have a team. I have people who work with me, who are passionate about this and who has experience.
So you started your last business right after the pandemic. Did you feel that starting the business, apart from the fact that it was scary, just because it was rocky times, did you feel there were differences economically, maybe culturally, people's kind of behavior patterns? Was it different starting a business after the pandemic versus before the pandemic?
All the business after pandemic become more seasonal. Now I feel it's a bit more back on track how it was before. Everything got more expensive, the buying power went down, products expensive, salaries higher, ingredients, the cost higher, and everyone feels this. I was reading a lot about behavior patterns of people during the pandemic and what people predict gonna happen after pandemic. And one of the patterns was that people will be gathered in smaller groups because they got used to being in a smaller group. No, in opposite, completely in opposite. And at the brewery, when we opened, we had a lot of tables for 2 people. We had to scrub them very fast. And now we have bigger tables for the bigger groups. We easily can have groups of 20, 30, 40 people at the same time.
People are hungry for spending more time with each other.
100%. Right after the pandemic, government restrictions were less strict. People went all in. They want to have fun, they want to do something, they want to be together, they want to communicate.
Things have gotten more expensive, the employment crisis. How do you deal with all of that? How do you cope with it?
Work harder. Work harder. Make sure the employees happy, make sure you can offer them something else, offer something besides cheaper price. Our beer right now is not the cheapest on the market. We use expensive ingredients. We use good products. We have audience who are ready to pay for this.
Have you ever thought of giving up and shutting everything down?
Many times, especially during the pandemic.
What stopped you?
I don't know, it was easier not to shut it down, probably.
It was easy not to shut it down?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
At some point I already had a business, I had employees, I had people who rely on this job. And just going there and telling, okay guys, that's it, it's over. It's not easy, and also, again, I am enjoying what I'm doing. It's part of me, I build it. I build a lot of things with my hands. It's just hard emotionally to shut it down. At the end of the day, I see people who are smiling, I see great emotions, and I feel there is a purpose in what I'm doing.
Putting smiles on people's faces.
Trying to make everyday life less boring.
In the eyes of many, looking into all the businesses that you've had and the plans that you have, you're a success story. You're someone who came to Canada and have started small, and you've grown and you've built a handful of successful businesses now employing 100 people. What kind of qualities do you think helped you get where you are today?
You need to work hard, you need to enjoy what you're doing, and you need to have luck. And luck is a very, very important part of the business. The next question should be, what is luck? Opportunity when it meets with preparation. So you need to prepare to execute the opportunity. And when I had my first gig, that's what happened. When I signed my first lease, that's what happened. When I signed the lease for the brewery, that was also what happened. I was prepared to start something. And you need to always look around and see if there is something for you there is opportunity. You need to be ready to execute. And in order to be ready to execute, you need to be prepared. You need to think about it, you need to dream about. And by dreaming, you start thinking, okay, how can I get there? Or what kind of person I need to be, or what kind of tools or resources I need to have. And then one day you walk down the street and you see there is a business for sale or for rent. Are you ready to jump on this deal?
And make that change.
Exactly.
Luck comes from increasing the surface of your opportunity. So the more things you do, or the more things you open yourself to, the higher the chance that you're going to get lucky at some point.
100%. But at the same time, you should also not do everything and jump on every little opportunity. For the past, let's say 2 years, I had so many opportunities to open different projects. But at some moment I understand, okay, opening too many businesses, opening too many projects doesn't mean that all of them are going to succeed. If you open the business, you need to work there. And no matter where you are, you need to be involved. Because if the business owner is not involved, why other people need to be involved?
What are some of the things that you have learned from trying maybe a little too many projects that didn't work out? How do you know what's the right thing to try or not?
Follow your guts, do research, prepare. If something doesn't work, don't be afraid to let it go. Or an opposite, maybe be afraid to let it go and just work harder. And I heard so many stories when people pitch me some ideas, and in my head I was like, okay guys, no, you're doing something wrong. It will never work. I meet these people 3 years later and I hear that they succeeded, they did something great, and people use their product. You need to learn to relax and not to give up.
If you were a newcomer to Canada today, is there something you would do differently?
I would save so much money if I would take another course in university about corporate law. I would save so much time and energy if I wouldn't do certain things myself or with my team and just hire a contractor. But sometimes you want to just do it. You need to go for it. You cannot think too much about something. And when you start a business, you're going to make mistakes. 100%. You're gonna lose time, you're gonna lose energy, you're gonna lose sleep and money. You need to accept it and you need to start doing something.
What advice would you give to a newcomer who is planning on coming to Canada in the next few months and wants to start a business?
First of all, Canada is a great country. You just need to open your heart and your mind to it. If you accept it, you'll be successful. If you come to Canada, maybe you go to the wrong place. Maybe you go to the wrong time of the year, wrong part of the country, or wrong neighborhood. When I came to Canada, I lived not in the right neighborhood, and I moved to even worse, in my opinion, and even worse. It took me 5 years to find out exactly where in Montreal I want to live.
What's that neighborhood in Montreal? What's that area in Montreal that you realize you finally want to live in?
And I live in Sud-West area called Sud-West. That's where my headquarters, that's where the brewery where I'm working, that's where I live. It's changed a lot in the past 5 years. A lot of young professional students move there, has access to highways. It's next to historical part of Canal Lachine. There is my brewery there.
Make sure you visit it next time you're in Montreal. You can see the name of it on Alex's t-shirt, and we're going to leave the link in the description box below as well.
Thank you.
Which neighborhoods weren't so good in Montreal that you lived in?
Again, it's not about good or bad area. It's about what is right for you. There is a really interesting part of Montreal called Nines Island. Very quiet place, birds singing, good neighborhood, good neighbors. But again, if you're 19 and you want to party, just don't go there.
What's your favorite place in Montreal?
I'm riding one wheel. It's my passion. I love one wheeling, and Canal Lachine is the perfect place. So I'm going from one part to all port. Montreal for me is the best city. I love Montreal. I'm a big ambassador. Downtown is smaller and there's some interesting parts, and you don't need to spend a half a day of going from one part to another part.
Tell me a little bit about what were your first impressions of Montreal.
A lot of snow, and I wasn't impressed. For me, it was a small village. I was expecting something big and huge. No, I wasn't impressed at all. With time, I started discovering some interesting parts of Montreal. Fall in love.
It's interesting that you guys moved in January. People usually try to move in spring or in summer. You guys went into the hardcore.
In opposite, January is the best month to move, because after that, it's only getting better and better. Took me, I would say, 3 years to start appreciating Montreal, and probably 5 or 8 to actually love it.
So what did have to happen for you to start appreciating Montreal?
First thing, of course, you see the bad part. Oh, there is a garbage on the street, that there is a pothole, there is snow, there is this and that. But then you see, okay, there is small streets, there is nice neighborhood, there is welcome people, there is a French charm, there are parks, we have a great mountain in the middle where you can walk, we have an amazing historical Canal Lachine that has a lot of cool places around. The architecture, St. Lawrence River. It just was a lot of high expectation, but it's not about this charm, it's not about this chic. Things do not need to be shiny in order to be practical and nice.
So talk to me a little bit about the practicality of Montreal.
If talking about the infrastructure, Montreal is a great infrastructure. We have a lot of bicycle lanes, we have a subway system, we have a train system. In North America, there are a lot of cities where you have to have a car. Montreal, now, you can easily survive without a car. And for me, I have a car, I drive, but in summer I use my electric one wheel, and I easily go from one place to another using one wheel.
So Montreal, a lot of people who come to Montreal, they say that Montreal is this North American Paris.
What makes Montreal is so unique and special is, of course, that the government trying to preserve French language. We have this unique mix of two cultures, and let's say Tourism Montreal right now use the word bonjour, which is hi in French, as a slogan for Montreal. It's not bonjour hi, it's bonjour. In Montreal, we want to say bonjour. Mm-hmm. So people from New York, from Boston, from Toronto can come to Montreal and experience that. Of course, it's very annoying. Let's be honest, as Anglophone, it's annoying. But you need to sacrifice things that if you want to preserve something. Lately, in the past several years, I'm trying to speak more and more French. Talking
about the sacrifices, the way a lot of people in Canada see it is that you try to preserve the French culture at the expense of having more business. A lot of businesses left Montreal specifically because Quebec became Francophone first and they became more aggressive about French. How do you look at that?
A lot of businesses left because there was a question of separation. Preserving French language and separating from the rest of Canada, it's two separate topics. You can love French culture but still be part of Canada. And I think Quebec is a big and important part of Canada, from economical growth and from just cultural. The city full of festivals. Montreal is the cultural city of Canada, not of province Quebec. Of course, there should be a balance. We cannot just go and, punishing everyone who doesn't speak French. Or if someone would answer your phone, any businesses, and someone gonna say hello, give them a fine. No, there should be a balance. And the government should find this balance of encouraging businesses to use French language and not losing businesses because it's become a bit more complicated to have business in Quebec. Language and the culture is one of the aspects that makes Montreal and Quebec so interesting province.
And so significant in Canada and maybe even in the world. Is it necessary to know French if you want to move to Montreal?
Is it good to learn it? Yes. Should you learn French in Montreal? I think yes. Is it necessary to know French if you move to France? Not necessary. You can definitely survive and have a good life in France without French language. Is it necessary to know English if you move to London? No. You can definitely have a good life there without knowing English. Would it be the same? Probably not.
Looking back over the years, how has Canada changed you?
I got probably more relaxed and started appreciating some things that I thought I would not appreciate. So give you a really good example. When I moved to Canada 15 years ago from Russia, I expected a giant megapolis. And I was shocked that the shopping centers close at 5 p.m. on the weekends. I was shocked that there are no 24/7 supermarkets. There are a lot of things that I thought, okay, now it's a common sense to have this. 15 years later, I understand that it's fine that the shopping center is closed at 5 p.m. because people who work there also want to go home. And you just need to plan your day accordingly. It's not the end of the world, and there is no little jobs. And things that you take for granted, it shouldn't be taken for granted.
What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear Montreal?
Bonjour.
What's your favorite place in Montreal?
Canal de Chine.
Least favorite part about Montreal?
Construction.
What's your favorite cafe?
Florence. Point St. Charles on Center Street.
Favorite neighborhood in Montreal?
Point St. Charles, St. Henry.
If not Montreal, where in Canada would you want to live?
London, UK.
Not London, Ontario?
Not London, Ontario.
Nowhere in Canada would Alex want to live, except Montreal. What's one place in Canada that you'd really like to visit that you haven't yet?
Newfoundland and Labrador. Ocean, very rough climate, nature, and I think it's a really interesting place to visit.
What's your favorite food in Montreal?
Salmon bagels.
Your favorite thing about Canada in general?
Cultural diversity.
What's your least favorite thing about Canada?
Homeless people.
What's one thing you wish you could change about Canada?
Housing crisis.
Who's your favorite Canadian person?
James Cameron.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for being here and for giving a lot of newcomers an inspiration to come to Canada, make the best out of it, potentially and hopefully launch successful businesses like Alex did, even though you might not like Canada in the first 3 to 5 years. Thank you, Alex. It's been great.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.